pivotal matchup coming out of the Rift today.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I mean, I think there's a tremendous amount of pressure on Owner to be able to get T1 a lead. You know, their early game is what they're known for. Even in the finals where they did lose 3-1 to Dom1, they created leads in the early game, largely in part to Owner and how well he was playing. You know, EDG are not the typical LPL team. They do play more slowly. They play very objective focus. And I think going into the team fights when you're going up against Viper, you know, really, I think the best team fighting ADC in the world, you have got to be playing from an advantage.
Yeah, and I love that you mentioned the early game coming in from T1 because when EDG was struggling in LPL playoffs and had to go through the lower bracket, they said in an interview like, hey, the thing that caught us off guard was the aggression, was the pace. This is the kind of thing that we can struggle against sometimes, and that's what T1 have been known for.
Yeah, definitely, and I think that's where we see now a further evolution of both teams because now you're on the international stage. Now you're up against the teams that you're not used to playing. I do hear a lot of praise coming the side of EDG, which is always weird because I think historically you want to talk about T1 as the favorites, but I think the fact of the matter is that they still have to prove that now. And that is in part why this group stage is so interesting to me.
Yeah, it is really, really exciting. I mean, obviously the history is on the side of T1. EDG's history at Worlds has not been so good. This is their 4th time coming in as the #1 seed. They have never topped their group. They have never gone beyond quarterfinals. And they have largely been a team that comes in and has massive expectations and then flops. And they've got to be able to disprove that. You know, the LCK has had so many great teams over the years. Obviously, T1 is the team at the top, and they're going to be looking to take down EDG today.
What are your predictions?
I'm the LPL representative.
Right.
LPL went 2-2 yesterday. They need to do better today, and EDG going to start us off with a win.
2-2, and they need to do better. Oh, to be so lucky, right?
I'll take my one win.
Yeah. What's your prediction?
I have to go with EDG. I just think that their current form looks better. I think that they're a more complete team. T1, you know, is incredible in the early game, but they have more holes in their mid and late game. And we saw that exploited by Dom1, and I think the EDG is a team on a similar level that can do similar things to T1.
And if anything, as a final note, I think I really hope that these two teams bring out the best in each other, right? Because we do see sometimes that newer players can crack a little bit under the pressure, but something tells me that's not going to be the case in this one.
Yeah, no, again, when you have two teams that have faced each other so many times with so many familiar faces, there's a bit of like a personal rivalry in there as well.
Yes. Before we go then, what is someone we haven't talked about that, because I think we all go to Owner because he had a great performance, right? The mid laners because you have to talk about Faker, but what could be an X factor here that we haven't considered?
I mean, I think Keria has been absolutely incredible for T1 all year long. I do think that, you know, we've seen some pretty astounding performances. So, you know, I do think support matchup can be a pretty big deal here. You know, Mako is not someone that likes to roam as much. You know, he plays more for a lane. So perhaps that could be an X factor.
You agree with that?
Yeah, I feel like just bot lane in general, right? You have two of the most dominant bot lanes in the tournament going head to head. EDG definitely play more around their bot lane, in my opinion, than T1 have shown. But I think even just a 2v2 laning matchup is going to be really exciting in this one.
Absolutely. Action across the board. And whether you're a rookie or a living legend, it is time to face fate and join our casters, Medi and Vedi, to begin day 2 of the group stage.
Thank you very much, Shox. Great analysis on the day, guys. Looking forward to 8 whole games of that. It's a long haul here at Worlds, but we're ready for day 2. And what a banger to start us off, Eddie.
Yeah, I already love the conclusions that people have jumped to after a single day of performances. You know, like, obviously LCK, now the greatest region to have ever existed. 4-0 on the day, looking to continue their win streak here against EDG.
I mean, I think a lot of people would come into Worlds generally and say LCK is the greatest region to ever exist. They've won the most world titles.
But,
T1
I mean, you say that, but I think that a lot of the sentiment was still that the LPL dominance, you know what I mean? Like, expectations were that LPL are the new kings of League of Legends, all 4 teams. Many people tout being able to get out of the group stage, but it was the LCK that did start with the 4-0. Let's see if they can continue their win streak today as T1 goes up against a long-time rival in the form of EDG.
I want to say it took us 30 seconds to get our first Kings in, so great job on that. It's definitely a European casting desk. Let's get through these bans. So T1 on the blue side, get rid of Scouts, LeBlanc, the Rise as well, and then Flandre's Lucian expected in that top lane. I love this. Thank you, EDG, LPL. You're a genius region. The cat is back in the hat. She's back in the bag. She's banned from this game. No Yuumi here. Alongside that, Lee Sin getting taken away from Owner.
Okay, so a lot of mid lane priority removed from the side of Scout. So it looks like T1's main focus here is to try and get a winning matchup for Faker, or at least something that he's confident on, and then EDG is going to remove the Azir, so one of the comfort picks taken away from Faker. Bit of a shame. I've always wanted to cast Faker's current Azir because I feel like he plays Azir kind of like you play Lee Sin. You know, he's very He's very aggro, wants to get in your face, wants to use that ultimate, but unfortunately we're not going to get to see that in this game. Instead, we're going to see the Twisted Fate instant lock-in for Faker. So, Twisted Fate obviously very well known for once getting level 6, being able to impact the rest of the map. So we'll see what he's able to do with that. Perhaps their game plan is to try and shut down EDG's bot side, which is touted as one of, if not the best duo bot in the world.
Yeah, Viper very much seen as the best AD carry in the world generally, and Mako, so much experience on his shoulders, was actually one of only 2 players on this EDG roster that was there when these 2 teams met last, all the way back in 2017. Then he was on the wrong end of a 0-2 scoreline. Today, he'll be trying to get redemption for that. Graves picked up for EDG in the top lane, though. Oh, could, of course, go jungle. Could, of course, we have seen a little bit of Graves mid, but the expectation is, after Flandre played it yesterday, that he will take it back into top.
Yeah, I think that's one of the great things about Graves right now in the meta is that you can flex it between top and jungle if you so choose. But yeah, primarily I think that it is a little bit stronger up towards the top side of the map, especially as a blind pick, because it seems that many teams haven't found a reliable answer into the Graves top, especially running that fleet footwork. You have so much sustain, you have so much wave clear, you have the dash and the ultimates to add that extra safety. Like, he's a difficult champion to gank, he does well into many matchups, and he does seem to be like one of those safe blind pick tops that many teams are aiming for right now.
I think part of his power is the flexibility within the build itself, right? You can pick it blind and then you can go bruiser, you can go heavier into damage, you can build more sustain. Yesterday we saw Bloodthirster as an early item on him as well, just for that extra sustain through some of these fights. Sylas picked up as an answer to the Twisted Fate, no surprises there, matching the roam ability with that hijack. And we're going to have a full top side of the map locked in for T1. Jace up towards the top itself for Kana, and Ono will be taking Xin Zhao.
I wouldn't be surprised to see EDG match that right now, given that we assume for now that the Graves is going into the top lane, the Sylas into the mid. They could just grab themselves something like a Jarvan if they wanted to. We heard on the analyst desk, we heard Lyric talking about how JJ is more of that role player. And right now, I think one of the things that EDG needs is a little bit more engaged. So I think that you have a pretty good dive comp already with just Sylas and Jarvan in tandem with each other. You have a pretty solid mid-jungle, but of course, the devastating and terrifying Twisted Fate gold card into a Xin Zhao on your face is going to be a very terrifying prospect as well. So pretty strong mid-jungles from either side. Mid lane likely to be a big factor as we move further into this game. But now the bot lane is going to be the focus as we move into the second half of the draft.
I wonder if we'll see EDG get rid of the Ezreal here alongside that Thresh, just remove any dashes from Gumayusi on this AD carry. It's not his most played, only a 40% win rate on it over summer, but still something he's very comfortable on. Although I think Teddy, out of the 2 AD carries for T1, would be more associated with Ezreal itself. Misfortune taken away by T1, a pick that was ubiquitous with draft yesterday. Saw it basically in every single game. Very strong after her ult buffs a couple of patches ago.
Well, Aphelios is the other one that really stands out to me, because especially when you think back to the finals for EDG, it was Viper's Aphelios in those team fights that was absolutely demolishing FPX, and I feel like that is going to be the primed, or the go-to pick, the one that everyone wants to get their hands on. And with the support bands continuing to come through for EDG, this Aphelios is really what I'm keeping my eyes on. Will T1 choose to ban it away, or will they say we have an answer for it? Because right now, T1's draft is very topside focused. You know, you have the Jace, you have a roaming Twisted Fate, and you have a very proactive early game jungler in the form of Xin Zhao. If they wanted to pick something safe, and you assume that Viper is going to go for something like the Aphelios, which is now going to be removed, Ezreal is a very safe blind. So it seems that, you know what, they don't want to have to match up against it. So the question is, what will Viper now go for? He obviously has a very deep champion pool. He's played a wide plethora of different champions. The question is, what will he choose to go for in a composition like this?
Looks like they might be saving it for last pick. Just want to see what the enemy AD carry locks in. There's the Leona, continues that wombo combo composition with the Sylas, the Jarvan diving in. Leona, of course, with the Solar Flare. Teams so well with the Cataclysm. Bit of a volcano of doom there for EDG. T1 now have to look down towards that bottom lane. AD carry, or bot laner, I guess, and support left to pick here. With Braum and Thresh removed, we are falling down that pool in terms of supports, and usually you'd look to something like a Nami, but into this dive composition from EDG, it's going to be very difficult to play a squishy support. Gumayusi here going towards that Ziggs.
So I also wonder if this is a takeaway from Viper as well, just because we know the LPL bot lanes are very effective at these kill lane Ziggs Leona bots, but also offers a little bit more AP damage, gives T1 a little bit more wave clear and a little bit more siege. And while they will lack that consistent DPS that an AD carry can provide, they're going to answer with a Shen support, a very aggressive support. Usually Shen has huge power spikes between the levels 1 and 3, where you want to try and play in the face of your opposition, look for early kills. So perhaps we're going to see a little bit more aggression from this T1 2 versus 2, as it seems like EDG is going to round out their bot side with a Jhin Leona.
I do love the fact that LCK is coming in with a very obvious different support strategy to everyone else. The Yuumi first pick for Damwon yesterday, now it's getting banned away. Here we see Keria going for that Shen for extra protection. He hasn't played it at all in summer, so it's something he's been keeping in his back pocket. Of course, Shen support is something we've seen in the past. It's not entirely novel, but it's great to see these new picks coming out here on day 2 of Worlds. Looking across these compositions, EDG have a lot of strength if they can get their jungle mid ahead. The ability to chase down T1 is very strong, but I wonder if that Ziggs and Shen will put a spanner in the works.
Well, I think one of the biggest things for T1's comp is how well they can play around side lanes, because you think about it, you have the Ziggs ultimate as a global, you have the Shen ultimate as a global, you have the Twisted Fate ultimate as a global, and I think the whole game plan for T1 is heavily invest in Kana, try to get Kana ahead as quickly as you can, and then look to try and play through the side lanes, utilizing Zig to try and match cross map so you can instant wave clear, and you can use the Shen and Twisted Fate to set up 3-man side lane ganks to really snowball and play through Kana. So this very much feels like Kana's game to really pop off from the perspective of T1, whereas EDG, they're looking to get those fights going. They have a lot of utility, they have a lot of engage. Around these neutrals is where they're going to look to fight. So this early game is going to be really important. Can Kana get ahead? Can T1 set Kana up for success? Or will EDG be able to stall things out and get the team fights that they're looking for?
In the LCK, Kana was the key focus for T1 many times. His Jace 8 and 2 with 700 damage a minute. Truly the epitome of LCK Jace. The question is, can he, with all of the eggs in his basket, carry T1 to a victory through this early game? EDG, very happy to scale up. It's something they did so well through the LPL. The finals, I think against FPX, they were a little bit more aggressive in the early game, but historically they've been a team that waits towards that team fighting point. And when you have double AD carries, your team fight is very strong.
Certainly is. EDG, they have a lot of damage at their disposal, and they definitely do have a decent early game. But I think that when you kind of look at how they scale, and I think one of the big things for Jhin in particular is I always think about him as he struggles into tanks because he only has 4 shots, right? And while those shots hit hard, when you're going up against a front line, it can be very difficult to get through. However, when you look at T1's comp, you're saying, oh, actually, this front line, not that terrifying. I think that when you get a 4th shot, that can do a lot of damage to this composition from T1. You only have to be really afraid of the Shroud from Shen. I always forget the name. The Twilight Shroud? Is it that one? The one that mitigates
Twilight
the
Shroud?
auto attack?
Twilight Shroud is a Kali. Spirit's Refuge is Shen.
This is why it's QWE now.
Yeah,
that's
I mean,
that's
you
why
use
I
those.
stick to this.
That's the thing.
Anyway, the thing that blocks auto attacks from Shen is basically the only thing that Viper really needs to be afraid of. Anyway, jungle path thing is always funny to me because I was talking to Kadro about this, and he was like, yeah, so Ona almost exclusively does a full bot clear into topside gank.
Okay.
And he does it pretty much every single game. And it looks like he's going to do the same thing again. Now, of course, we talked a lot about the draft and how typically he does want to try and invest into Kana early. So it shouldn't be that surprising, but you can see that pings from EDG are coming down. They have information, and because Gumayushi and Keria also assisted with the pull, this will give Viper and Mako the ability to get that early push. Meanwhile, JJ isn't going to have a leash, so he's going to solo clear. He's going to be a little bit behind Ona, but it looks like he's going to look to a match, except doing mirror on the other side, going from top side to bottom.
Yeah, the T1 bot lane knew that this is what you buy into when you pick Ziggs Shen on the bottom side of the map. Yes, you can trade, and Shen does have some windows, and Ziggs does have some windows, but most of the time, you're going to be standing back, you're just going to be farming against this Jhin Leona, just letting them push into you. Ona was pinged out there on his Razor Beak. The ward spots him, so EDG have full awareness of where the T1 jungler resides.
Let's have a quick look at Faker here, because this is what we see often in pro play, how people use their prio to get early information. Unfortunately for Faker, he wasn't quite able to drop that ward on the Raptors, so they don't have full information, but they can be pretty confident that JJ is pathing from top side to bot. The problem for T1 is largely that no one pulled for JJ, so they don't have concrete information as to where they are, where he is. They just likely have a rough idea of where they expect him to be. But EDG have done a really good job of utilizing that early vision. They dropped that early ward onto the Raptors, and then Flandre, using his prio, will drop it onto the blue buff, so they have full information as to where Owner is. And I think that it's in JJ's best interest by playing the Jarvan to actually avoid Owner, because Jarvan in the early game, while you can do a lot of in terms of gank setup, and you do have early damage, an extended trade against a Xin, you're going to lose. So he wants to make sure that he can guarantee himself a Scuttle Crab. You can see that he's done his full clear down towards the bot side of the map, and thanks to the bot prio that his team does have, he should be able to secure that Scuttle as well.
Yeah, as a jungler here, you are so happy for your bot lane. You're like, okay, you guys have pushed it in, just walk up through the river. If you want, Viper can back, he can go buy his first item, and because Mako is there, JJ knows he's entirely safe, even with Scout backing away. So early on, both junglers tracked relatively well by their opposing man. As you said, T1 didn't have concrete evidence that JJ was where he was, but because of the ways the waves were pushed, that is to be expected. This is a good little position here from Owner, able to sneak past the vision that was supplied by that ward. It's a couple of wards down into the EDG base, and he wants to reset as well, because you don't want to be going into fights when you're at an item disadvantage. He hasn't gone back yet. He would be at a pickaxe disadvantage to JJ if a fight did happen.
But this is pretty interesting, largely because many junglers, especially at the pro level, what they'll do is they'll use their ward early, and then they'll reset, trade it for the sweeper, and then they'll come back out onto the map. Sometimes they'll even just grab the sweeper even earlier so that they can clear out any potential early vision. But Owner held on to his trinket, and then in his first recall actually chose to use it where he expected JJ to actually come back out onto the map, and now he's gotten information as to where JJ is. So now T1 have information as to what JJ is up to. They have to be careful, and Faker is, look at how Faker is playing in the mid lane right now. He's kind of pathing towards the bot side of his jungle a little bit more, respecting that possibility, and so really good information. The person that's in danger right now is Kana, because look at the flank from JJ. He's managed to navigate his way around the vision. Kana doesn't know that he's here.
Wave not in the best of spots for Kana either. He's going to step up and get a couple of auto attacks down. Flandre could dash forward with the quick draw. JJ, patience. It's like a doctor who's got a lot of patience in this top lane as he decides not to go for the fight. Flag and drags away. And I wonder why EDG decided not to pull the trigger there.
I think the main reason was Kana never quite overstepped. You know, you always have that line where you know that, hey, if a player goes past this point, even if they flash, there's still a good chance we can get that kill. But Kana, great patience there, because he knows that his jungler's not on his side of the map. So he instead shows that respect. He says that JJ is somewhere around the top side. If I overstep, the risk of me getting ganked is very real. Faker's not level 6 yet, and while he does have TP, we probably don't win that 2 versus 2 anyway. So really good respect there from Kana. And so far in this early game, it's just a lot of information trading. Both teams playing around where their jungler is, what information they have, and in terms of the farm, everything looks very even. But now that level 6 has come through, Owner's going to miss the ward in that. But surprised he didn't actually check that. So Flandre's just going to use his ult, and now it's going to get spotted out. So yeah, just overall very safe. You can see a couple of attempts here and there. But now that the level 6 have come through, this is where EDG really need to be careful of what Faker is up to. But remember, Scout can always steal that ultimate away and is able to follow alongside in the event that Faker tries to do something a little bit sneaky somewhere on the map.
The last time these two mid laners met up in 2017, it was Faker who came out on top, but EDG had leads in both those games, Vedius. 10,000 gold ahead in the first one before Faker's Shockwave found them all, and 5,000 gold ahead in the second one before, once again, Faker was able to pull a clutch play out. Historically, it has gone in T1's favor, although EDG did deny the first ever MSI title from T1 back in 2015.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy, like, we heard Shocks talking about it, right? We're at a point in League of Legends where organizations and rivalries have literally spanned over years, and of course this doesn't look like a huge number of games in terms to really create a rivalry, but because of the impact that some of those games have had, you know, the fact that it was EDG that denied T1 that MSI title, it was T1 that denied EDG getting out of groups, that because of the significance of those results, that is where these rivalries have started to grow from. And of course, many players are different, but those rivalries still stay the same all the less. For now, though, still very even between the two teams. You can see T1 with a slight gold advantage. I think, by and large, that's coming from the Twisted Fate passive. But yeah, I think that for now, EDG is pretty happy with this. The fact that nothing has gone too wrong, the fact that Faker hasn't been able to, as of yet, find successful play, but I wouldn't be surprised to see T1 go on the offensive. Look at this. Carrier making his way up towards the top side, will be spotted out. Owner right behind him, and look, Faker's in the fog of war. JJ is now a little bit worried.
Flash away from JJ, carrying with the flash follow as well. Destiny used by Faker, but T1 unable to find the EDG jungler. They do get pushed in the top lane here, which means Kana should be able to secure a plate with a little bit of assistance from their support.
This is such a pleasure to watch, Medic, because...
Words are struggling today, yeah. We'll get him out.
Because you can see how aware both teams are. JJ was looking at the minimap and saying, Fake is missing, Carrier is top, Owner is probably somewhere in between the two of them, so he positions himself in a way where he can get out should anything happen. And now it's EDG on the offensive.
Flash, then play the chasers on, Owner pops the Crescent Guard, but JJ jumps onto him with the Cataclysm in his first blood over to Mako. Kana now has to flash the wall. EDG able to collapse on the top side Rift Herald.
Great collapse coming out from EDG. They're able to punish the fact that Owner is isolated in the river. They have the numbers advantage, and there's no way for him to escape. A lot of flashes were burned there on the side of T1, but it is EDG. They end up coming out on top. They equalize the gold once again, and they will find themselves with the Rift Herald. Great stuff in this early game from EDG.
EDG just able to hamper any plans. T1 had to get Kana ahead and then obviously get the kill over onto Mako as well. Not really the target you want it on, but getting your support a little bit more tanky. As a support player myself, just give them all the kills, you know? Get them the gold. Locket's great. It does everyone a shield. You don't need damage if you have shielding, Vetty.
Hey, I mean, the tankier the front line and the stronger the engage, the easier your team fighting is. Exactly. Am I right? Love those supports, because they support you. Now, I think that with this Herald, EDG have some options. So they could, if they wanted to, use it mid lane. Oh, hang on, JJ. He doesn't have Silas, but Silas has TP, and you can TP.
Nope.
Oh, he stole the Chenault!
No flash, Chenault coming out as well, and Owner is down. Scout steals away the stand. United, as you say, EDG get their second kill on the board.
I was looking at the minimap and I was thinking, whoa, JJ, I don't know if this is a great idea because T1 have the numbers advantage here. But what I didn't realize was that Scout in the previous fight had already stolen Carrier's ult, and they were saying, you know what, we know where Owner is and we can punish him. And that's exactly what they do. Really great play there from EDG, and it is Scout that ends up picking up that kill. And what I was going to say is they can use the Herald. I think they should use it either mid or top. The reason why you would use it mid is to deny Faker the ability to roam as easily as he normally would, because he won't have access to that tower and that extra bit of security. Alternatively, you can throw it top. Put Kana a little bit further behind than what T1. Remember that he's one of the main parts of this composition that you ideally want to try and play around, especially utilizing those side lanes. And if you remove that tower from him, you only make it harder for him to side lane against someone like Flandre. So that's kind of what I expect EDG to do with this Herald. Of course, they still have plenty of time left to use it. Let's see what they decide to do.
I just had a quick mosey, and Scout having 2 global ultimates to steal away benefits EDG so much. Hijack is on an 80-second shorter cooldown than Destiny. So if Scout steals away the Destiny, then 80 seconds later, he can steal away the Stand United. He's on both sides of the map at the same time a lot of this game, and it becomes very difficult for T1 to make those objective plays. Destiny coming out onto the top side. JJ underneath the tower with Flandre. He's going to try and defend. There's the Destiny. Faker underneath the tower. Smoke screen stops him from locking in the gold card. And will just force EDG to back away.
Just fantastic awareness once again from EDG. The positioning from JJ, he doesn't leave his top out to dry, and every single time T1 is saying, we want to make this top lane play. We talked about it extensively in draft, right? We said, like, top lane is what T1 want to play for. They want to try and get Kana ahead. They want to take down this top tower. But nope, Mako's on his way. JJ's already in position. The TP is up and ready to go for Scout. Like, EDG is just so aware of what T1's win condition is, what they want to do, and they are denying it. For the time being, as long as they just prevent T1 from doing what they're doing, that EDG is, as a byproduct, getting what they want. Because they will be able to play towards these neutral objectives, they can play towards these team fights, and they should be able to come out on top in the 5v5, which, as a team, they are often praised so much for.
Yeah, team fighting is absolutely sublime. JJ still has that Rift Herald as well, Vetty. It's about a quarter of its cooldown left, 2 minutes before plates fall, but the Rift Herald will expire before that. So it looks like he is just going to put it down in the mid lane. Scout steals away the Destiny. Faker's still half of its way before it comes back off cooldown. So EDG can just get this charge in. Scout waiting in the wings to make sure the Rift Herald gets in, make sure he gets the gold, and because of that, EDG about 1,000 gold ahead. Mako once again moving away from the bottom lane. Both of the AD carries, or the bot laners with the Ziggs and the Jhin, have been left a little bit on an island as their supports look to make plays on the rest of the map. Mako spots that he's on a ward, so we'll just clear that out and work his way down through this river.
We can see how topside focused this game has been because of the lack of Drake being killed yet, right? Yeah. We're 12.5 minutes in, and neither team has even looked at that Drake. And again, it's because EDG is saying, we don't care. We want to make sure that Flandre is totally fine. We want to make sure that Kana doesn't get ahead. And you know what? The Drakes can come a little bit later. We'll get them. We'll get to it. Look, the pings are coming down right now, in fact. But Mako will be spotted out on a ward. And it's like such an interesting vision game. And it's just really impressive to me to see how both of these teams are leveraging their vision and how they're playing around it. But most impactfully, it's a matter of how they recognize each other's win conditions. Oh, Scout's actually going to use the TF ult to get back to base.
Needs to get back to Boris. He was shutting his shop in about 3 minutes' time. He was like, I have to get back quickly, can't just base. Reminds me of old Rek'Sai Ultimate with the farm alarm.
I remember, yeah. I do remember that. Yep, that was, as Kedra liked to put it, that was tempo. Well, no, I'm using it in the wrong context. But the point is, you get a really big tempo advantage from it, right? Because you not only do you decrease the time of your back, but you also then get back out onto the map so much faster. And you can see the look, Scout's already back in mid lane, will have the push in mid, and now he's going to move into the fog of war, start creating some threat, but because he's going to get spotted out by some vision. Not as scary.
T1 got tempo murdered, I guess.
Something along those lines? Kind of. Because the
problem with the word tempo is it means so many different things to so many different people, and it's why we don't often use it on the broadcast.
In League, it has a very specific meaning, right? Which is very much... basically, it's who gets to make the play first on the map, you know? And the easiest way to think of tempo is who... You have tempo if you're back out on the map first, because it's kind of like your turn is an easy way of thinking about it. But right now, EDG have control. So they have denied all vision in the river. They're kind of forcing T1 to face check into them, and they're basically making T1 feel a little bit uncomfortable. And I really like how our observers are highlighting this here, because EDG are doing a great job of utilizing their pressure and their windows where they know they can move and have numbers to try and deny vision and get a little bit more over the map. And now their lane assignments are starting to shift, because EDG is saying, well, okay, Viper's got his first item now. He's got his upgraded boots. He's level 10. We want to start involving him, and he doesn't have TP. So what we'll do is we'll send Scout bot. He'll start getting all of this solo XP, and we know that he can easily 1v1 Faker on this Sylas, and should a fight kick off, he can TP in. Now, EDG also know that the Herald's been started off, so notice Scout's come back to base, wants to spend a little bit of that gold. He's grabbed himself the stopwatch, and now EDG is ready for the fight.
T1 lost the last fight around the Herald. EDG now setting up for it once again. Faker locks in the... Well, hasn't actually locked in the card yet, but we'll be looking for that gold. For the win in this game with Turret down to 4,000. That's going to reset, you have to feel, as it begins to charge towards Owner. Reset comes out. The fight's going to start as Mako dives in. Super Mega Inferno Bomb's going to do a lot of damage onto the backline. JJ still pushing forward. Scout dives onto the back, and that is a very dead Owner. Baker forced away with the curtain call. Flandre low, the Immortal Shield, but will proc. Kana has a lot of mana and can put down a lot of damage with these shock blasts. EDG about half HP on everyone apart from Scout. T1 continue to step forward, continue to look for the fight, but EDG holding them at arm's length right now. The poke damage from T1 is absurd. Carrier now spotted on a ward as he steps forward. Scout has the flank. Mako going in, and look at the damage going down onto Kana. He's dead. Faker has to get across the wall. Gumayushi flashes, and EDG once again win the fight.
Another very clean team fight from EDG. Great patience, great flanks, and just great utilization of their ultimates as well. They're going to extend to a 2k gold lead. They're going to secure themselves another Herald, and EDG are looking strong in their first matchup against T1.
EDG just finding such coordinated fights in the middle of that after they killed off Owner. It looked perhaps like T1 had a chance just to poke them, to prod, to get some